We visited one of the first summer street festivals in Chicago to see if we can find some Paul supporters. Interviewed a valedictorian that dedicated his commencement speech to the ideals of liberty as inspired by Ron Paul. And we also have a special segment dedicated to all of you Mitt Romney delegates. This and much more. Let's get ready to evolve. Welcome to Evolve, your weekly dose of liberty news created for the people and by the people. Thanks for joining. I'm your host, Forrest Jellick. To start, a poll this last week found that Congressman Paul has a 93% approval rating. Now, for all of you 99%ers, that's about as close to the 99% as you're going to get. Out of curiosity, I wanted to compare Ron Paul's approval rating to that of Congress. And as you can see, Congress has a whole whopping 14.6% approval rating. I know, don't all clap at once. But just out of genuine curiosity, can anyone out there in the comments below explain to me how our Congress keeps getting elected?
Bueller.
Yet we still hear sentiments from our fabulous, ever-truthful mainstream media that Congressman Paul is unelectable. So speaking of percentages, this is for you 99%ers. Stop occupying whatever it is you're currently occupying. It's now time to start occupying state conventions and becoming delegates for Ron Paul. And speaking of delegates, it was released this week, according to federal law, that indeed the delegates of the Republican National Convention may be unbound. So what does it mean? It means you delegates may well get to vote your conscience come August. For those of you going to the convention, take a look at your state laws concerning delegates and don't accept any candidate telling you that you are bound to them. Ben Swan covered it this week, so let's check it out.
155 delegates picked up by Mitt Romney in Texas tonight. That means he has now clinched the Republican nomination, right? Well, no, it's not true.
When you get a chance, I recommend checking out the rest of what Ben Swan has to say either on YouTube or Facebook. So as a delegate update, according to the RealDelegateCount2012.com, today Romney stands at 591, while Ron Paul has 186 delegates. Now bear in mind, this does not reflect the Gingrich or Santorum delegates, nor the Romney delegates that are there for Ron Paul, and they do exist. Yet the mainstream media has called it all for Mitt Romney after the results in Texas. So what do we do now? Well, we do what we've been doing. We keep winning those state conventions and keep picking up those delegates so that we can go with a force to the convention in August. Now, the following states have their conventions this week with a total of 446 delegates up for grab. It's a big week, so we got a lot of work to do. On June 2nd, we have the Louisiana and then Washington and Missouri primaries with 46, 43, and 52 delegates respectively. On June 3rd, we have the North Carolina Convention with 55 delegates. And on June 5th, we have the California closed primary with 172 delegates, South Dakota closed primary that has 28 delegates, and the New Jersey semi-closed primary with 50 delegates awarded. Now, you know what to do, Liberty folks. Go get them. Go to those conventions. Go to your state activities. Get those delegates. And speaking of liberty, we put together this segment directly for you Romney delegates headed to the Tampa convention. And I know this sounds crazy. You're listening to a Ron Paul supporter talk about Mitt Romney. But I ask you, just take a few minutes to hear me out. To start with this, we need to take an honest historical look at the two men still in the race. And we'll lead off with Mitt Romney.
Well, I frankly wish that the last Congress would have dealt with the stimulus issue and that the president could have signed that before leaving office. I think there is need for economic stimulus. Americans have lost about $11 trillion in net worth. That translates into about $400 billion a year less spending that they'll be doing, and that's net of additional government programs like Medicaid and unemployment insurance. And government can help make that up in a very difficult time, and that's one of the reasons why I think a stimulus program is needed.
So Mitt selectively picks who and how stimulus gets awarded. So okay, let's continue our look.
We do have tough gun laws in Massachusetts. I support them. I won't chip away at them. I believe they help protect us and provide for our safety.
I've been pro-gun and continue to be pro-gun.
I don't line up 100% with the NRA. I don't see eye to eye with the NRA in every issue.
But it didn't take me very long to understand that there are millions and millions of people who care very deeply about their constitutional right to bear arms.
As governor, you signed into law one of the toughest restrictions on assault weapons in the country.
And steeply increased fees on gun owners in that state, in fact, by 400%.
My view is that we have the Second Amendment right to bear arms,
And in this country, my view is also that we should not add new legislation.
My position is we should check on the backgrounds of people who are trying to purchase guns. We also should keep weapons of unusual lethality from being on the street.
I do not believe in new laws restricting gun ownership and gun use.
South ban that expired here because Congress didn't act on it, you would support?
Just as the president said, he would have signed that bill if it came to his desk, and so would have I.
So there was that. But let's see some more.
Let me tell you, there's a big difference between what we did and what President Obama is doing. What we did, I think, is the ultimate conservative plan. We said people have to take responsibility for getting insurance if they can afford it, or paying their own way. No more free riders.
And you can look at my positions. Many of my positions, I believe, are very conservative. All of them, frankly. I know some people say, gee, your Massachusetts health care plan isn't conservative. I say, oh, yes, it is. Because right now, in this country, people that don't have health insurance go to the hospital if they get a serious illness, and they get treated for free by government. My plan says, no, they can't do that. No more free riders. People have to take personal responsibility. I consider it a conservative plan. So what's my view? I'm a conservative through and through.
The Romney system has mandates in Massachusetts, although you've backed away from mandates on a national basis.
No, I like mandates. The mandates work.
Beg your pardon?
I
didn't know you were going to admit that.
No, absolutely.
You like mandates.
Let me tell you what kind of mandates I like, Fred, which is this.
The ones you come up with.
Here's my view. If somebody can afford insurance and decides not to buy it, and then they get sick, they ought to pay their own way, as opposed to expect government to pay their way. And that's an American principle. That's a principle of personal responsibility.
Well, I think the president is hoping that we'll be diverted from the fact that Obamacare is going to get repealed. If I'm president, I will repeal Obamacare. And frankly, on the first day of my administration, I'll direct the Secretary of Health and Human Services to grant a waiver to all 50 states from Obamacare.
Now, admittedly, Romney's been a successful businessman and father. However, let's not confuse that with his presidential potential. Frankly, he has said whatever was expedient to get into office. And so, ask yourself, is this what the country needs now? A charismatic man that doesn't stand by principles but rather says what is politically expedient at the time? We actually have that in office now, and it's not working out well for us. Now, in all fairness, we have to contrast Ron Paul over the years. So for your viewing pleasure, I give you nearly 30 years of Ron Paul.
There are 38 million people today that have no health care after the government's been in health care for 45 years. We spend a lot of money on health care, the government today. The price has gone up, the quality has gone down, the distribution has been eliminated. There are more people without health care now since the government's been in the business. Okay, but I have to remember, there are more people on the street today without homes, without medical care since we've been in the business of welfare. If there's a threat to our national security, you never act secretly through the CIA or doing anything militarily without the consent of Congress. 70% of our military money is spent overseas, subsidizing rich allies. It should be spent on the defense of this country.
We could take care of some people back here at home if we weren't spending $1.5 trillion a year on our militarism. That money needs to be spent back at home, and we would have more defense, not less defense.
No, you can't have a government like this without an income tax, but we don't want a government like this. This is not the kind of government that was designed by our founders of the country. It's not what was written in the Constitution. We've only had an income tax since 1913. But if you want a welfare state, and if you want to police the world and pay for the defense of Japan and Germany, send foreign aid to the Soviet Union, you not only need the income tax, you need the Federal Reserve to print up the money when the deficit is accumulated. So we think the government should be much smaller. If government is small, then you don't need an income tax.
I'm very disappointed that so far in this Congress we have not yet seen any sincere effort to cut any spending. There's something wrong here that could and should be adjusted with decreased spending, not raising taxes, and not further robbing the Social Security Trust Fund.
And as you can see, there are not many faces of Ron Paul. Frankly, there's only one. Principled, intelligent, and honest. You always know exactly what you get with him. A constitutional conservative that doesn't sway in the wind. Now ask yourself what you think the country truly needs. Do you stand by the ideals of our founders in the Constitution? Do you believe in those principles?
We know what Barack Obama's vision of America is. We've lived it this last 3.5 years. Mine is very different. My course restores and protects our freedoms. As president, the Constitution would be my guide. the Declaration of Independence would be my compass.
Do you believe that states have the right to ban contraception, or is that trumped by a constitutional right to privacy?
George, this is an unusual topic that you're raising. The states have a right to ban contraception. You're asking, could it constitutionally be done? We can ask our constitutionalist here.
So Romney delegates, what's it going to be? This is your moment of truth to stand for something honest. For a man of timeless integrity, for a man of consistency. For a man that has fought for you both in the military and in Washington for over 3 decades. And the ideals our country is founded upon, with no exception. Do you think that person is Barack Obama? No, it's not. Is it Mitt Romney? History would say it's not either. The answer is right in front of you. That answer is Ron Paul. And so I humbly ask for you to keep an open mind and ponder it before the convention in August. So as we think to our future, we noticed in the comments from our last show that there was a valedictorian that had dedicated his graduation speech to the ideals of liberty inspired by Ron Paul. We thought it'd be great to show the future faces of liberty, so we found him. And here he is, Tyler Yasaka. Welcome to Evolve. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Now, rumor has it you dedicated your valedictorian speech to the ideals of liberty and limited government to your class. Is that correct?
That's true.
Inspired by?
Ron Paul.
Ron Paul. That's great. Now, how was it received by your fellow students?
Well, lots of them said they liked it. They thought it was interesting. And I'm hoping that it encouraged them to really think about the role of government in their lives.
Did you have anybody after the speech or later come up to you and ask you any questions about it?
I don't think I got any specific questions, but I got a lot of people who just said, you know, it was very, made them think a lot about it.
That's fantastic. Now, what brought you to the ideals of liberty and Ron Paul?
Well, pretty much Ron Paul was the one who brought me there.
Was there a video? Was there something someone might have posted up? What can you remember the moment that you actually discovered the ideals and said, hey, this is something I'm interested in looking into?
Yeah, one day I was on Facebook. One of my friends had a Ron Paul YouTube video posted, so I clicked on the link and watched, I think it was Ron Paul's video of the prediction he made in Congress. Well, several predictions he made, and it showed how they'd all pretty much come true now. And watched that, a couple other YouTube videos. Then I went over to his website and read about his positions on the issues. And pretty much from then on, I realized he was the only politician that really made sense.
Now, this is something I've always said and I've noticed. Like, I'm really encouraged by the liberty movement because of people like you. So educated, so smart, much further along than I was when I was at your age. What plans do you have in the future? I'm assuming you're going to go to college this fall and study. So if that's the case, would you like to share with us what your future plans are and what you're interested in?
Yeah, I'm planning on going to the University of North Alabama next fall, and I'll be majoring in computer science and minoring in economics.
Well, Tyler, thanks for joining us. This is fantastic. Best of luck to you. Thank you for spreading the liberty word. And again, I really think the future is in great hands with people like yourself. So thank you and congratulations.
Thanks for having me.
So for those watching the show, we just wanted to give a shout out to the Young Americans for Liberty, a great organization that we think really helps spread the ideals of liberty to kids that are in college and younger men and women that are looking into the liberty ideal. So check them out and follow them. And speaking of youth in the liberty movement, we wanted to give a plug to the Young Americans for Liberty, a fantastic organization. And if you're not familiar with them, we suggest that you do. Now, in this week's episode of Firestarter, we hit the streets at a street festival here in Chicago to determine if liberty existed here, well, in the land of Lincoln and Obama. We took our cell phones and interviewed some people to see if we could find some Ron Paul fans. Let's see what we found. Here I'm at the Sheffield and Belmont Street Festival in Chicago, and I'm going to ask some people about Ron Paul and see if we can find some liberty-minded people. So how do you feel about a large government and government intrusion in our lives?
Big thumbs down.
Big thumbs down.
Absolutely.
So would you
more taxes for what? I mean, they're not creating jobs. It's got to come from the private sector. And smaller government means more efficient America, period.
What do you feel about somebody like Ron Paul being able to work on our economy?
you know what? I wish he was still in the race, and I really think that this system needs to go to a third party and have somebody like Ron Paul who doesn't have to get chained down to the Republican Party's demands and rules and just run independent. And I think we'd be in much better shape as a country.
And now, did you realize that he's still in the race and he still might win the primary in August?
God bless him. I'm voting. Period.
High five. Now, what is your number one item on the election this fall?
Number one item?
What concerns you the most?
The budget.
The budget.
National budget.
What do you think about somebody like Ron Paul being able to try to help us out of our budgetary woes?
Anyone who can help us out of with our budgetary goals, I think that would be a huge benefit. So if it's Ron Paul, that's fantastic.
Now, were you familiar that he actually has a plan that would cut $1 trillion in his first year of his presidency?
I was not.
Would you be in favor of that?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I would say, what are his plans to bring it down more than $1 trillion?
That's it. You know, I like the way you answer. So, would you vote for somebody like Ron Paul if he was on the ballot?
I could.
You could get behind that?
You know, I have to see all the pros and cons of all the candidates, but if they met with my views, absolutely, 100%.
And the lovely lady?
What he said.
Well, yes, okay. Well, thank you very much, guys. Thanks. So believe it or not, the seeds of liberty are even alive and well in Chicago. Now, how would you convince a Romney delegate to support Ron Paul? Share it in the comments below. And with that, thanks again for joining us on Evolve. And be sure to share the show through Facebook or Twitter. This is Forrest Jellick signing off. Till next week, don't live free or die, my friends. Just live free.